Hi, Mega Moms. Jessica Hensley here, and I am the founder of Real Estate Mega Moms, where we help moms create a life and a business that they love. Sorry, I have a fly that's flying around here. I'm in my kitchen today. So today we have Miss Alina, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. Will you please say it? Schumacher?
For sure, it's Schumacher. Yeah,
Oh, I was close. Okay.
you are 100%.
So, ladies, I found Alina on iTunes. I was searching for real estate podcasts. I always love to learn. You all know that. And Alina has a podcast, and I listened. Her voice is just so soothing, and it was just really good information. And I thought I need to bring her to Real Estate Mega Moms to share what she knows. She also has written a book. Her story is just amazing. She became one of the top real estate agents in her area, which she moved to Canada from Germany. And you knew very little English, correct?
hmm
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, really
English.
just
Yeah,
blown away. I'm just going to let you go ahead, share some of your story with us.
sounds good. Well, where to start? I mean, we all have a story, right? And everyone has their way of developing and things that shape them, who they are becoming in their life. And I guess my early beginnings started in Russia, in communist Russia. And my earliest memories are ironing my black uniform and going to school every day and having a German last name and being bullied every single day because I just wasn't one of them, right? And, from German fascists to all kinds of things. When I was 12 years old and the borders finally opened, because he couldn't escape Russia at that point, but when the borders finally opened, my parents immigrated to Germany, where we originally were from. And I was so excited because I thought, finally, we are German descent. This is where I belong, and this is going to be amazing. And one of the very first times in school, one kid actually said to me, "Why don't you just go back to Russia, you Russian pig?" And I'll tell you, I feel like my life has been constantly trying to fit in this, constantly trying to figure out, who am I? What am I here for? What is my purpose in life, right? And I was very, very blessed to get married early. And I have 3 children. We immigrated to Canada 14 years ago, and we absolutely love it here. I have 2 grandbabies as well, number 3 on the way, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been an unbelievable ride. And I had never had any intentions of having my own business or anything. Well, selling real estate of all things, it's like the farthest thing from my mind, because we immigrated to Canada because I really wanted to homeschool. And in Germany, you go to jail for that. You cannot. It's still the Hitler system. It is still the state determines what the kids learn. And at that point, there was some friends who had already immigrated a couple of years before. So we kind of connected and we're like, oh, well, how is this all going to be? So literally, my youngest wasn't even a year old. My oldest was not even 5. We rented an RV. We flew down to Canada, and we had the experience of our life. We just toured the whole country, or most of it, I should say. And
Wow.
we really fell in love with Manitoba. Manitoba is called friendly for a reason. It's called Friendly Manitoba.
Uh-huh.
And, we had some friends here that kind of lived in a small little town that was very Germanized, if you know what I mean, a lot of German immigrants. So when we finally immigrated a year and a half later, we made a decision that we did not want to be living where, it's very, very German. We wanted to really become Canadian. There again, me trying to fit in and figuring out, okay, so how can I be one of them? And I'll tell you something, Jessica, for the very first time in my life, I felt accepted. I felt like Canada is so welcoming and so like such open arms, right? But, I was a young mom. I was homeschooling, and this was my dream. This wasn't easy because English is my 4th language, and I had to do it in English, right? So, I was learning English with my kids. Finally, I was getting educated because, and you don't pay attention in school.
Right?
And so, yeah, becoming a realtor was the first thing on my mind. But what happened is basically I was just referring the person that had helped us to find our home all the time. I was so impressed with how he had helped us. And he's like, well, get your license. You can do this. You're really good at this. I'm like, what are you talking about?
And I think that's similar to a lot of our moms that are watching right now, because, a lot of times it's a friend or someone that's just, hey, you should get your license. You would be good at this. And it's like, that wasn't necessarily their dream, but they're into it. They want to do it on the side. So anyway, I just wanted to make that connection that I do feel like we can all relate to that.
Totally. Now keep in mind, in Manitoba, you cannot be a realtor on a side. It can't be your sidekick. It has to be your full time, or you can't do it at all. So you're not permitted to have a side job. So quite a few provinces, you still can have a side job. So while you're trying to make things work and whatnot, right? But in my case, it was more out of just desperation, trying to help my husband. And I am an entrepreneur. I've never really had a professional business per se. I sold Tupperware, if you can imagine. I was actually really good at it. And to the point where my husband had to say, it's either me or Tupperware, because this is ridiculous. 8 parties a week is too much.
Oh my.
And so it was a very short-lived career. So I've had, I know that I can be passionate about something, right? But at this point, what I was really passionate about, I was seeing my husband struggle. He struggled with the language a lot more than I did. And he was an electrician in Germany. His license wasn't recognized. He had to go through the whole exams again. He failed a couple of times. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I got a side job reading Harley Davidson manuals, not reading, but proofreading.
Okay.
And it was like $10 an hour, and I'm like, okay, surely there's got to be something better, right? So when this guy says to me, well, you would be really good at this. I'm like, well, I don't speak the language. I don't know anyone. I don't know how I would even do this, because I have little ones at home. My husband has a full-time job. How is this going to work, right? And what was really driving me as a young mom was I wanted to support my husband, but I also was seeing a lot of other immigrants who were coming to this country, specifically to this area, who I felt like just didn't have the support, like there was plenty of realtors who would have been happy to sell them something and then just let him go. But I didn't really like someone who spoke their language, who understood them, right? And since I speak Russian and German and Low German, which actually are 3 different languages, I felt like, what if I could help these people on this? What if I could do this like on the weekend when my husband is home, or, the evenings when he can watch the babies, and so we could probably make this work, right? And what do you think?
And you did.
And, well, it started to kind of just feel like, okay, well, maybe I can make this work. But I'm a person of faith, so I prayed. I said, God, okay, if you don't want me to do this, just make me fail my first exam, which is a very small faith kind of prayer to pray. But my first exam came back at 94%. And I'm like, surely, God, you're trying to tell me something here. So I just went through with it. And I started to hustle, and I started to make the same mistakes every person makes, especially we women, right? Mm-hmm. I started to trust people too much and spend too much time with the people who weren't worth my time. I was running after things that really didn't have a return on investment. I didn't have a system. I didn't really have any training. I had a very supportive broker at that time. But, as a guy, he didn't really understand the mom thing, right? He's like, oh, you can do anything, right? And at the same time, also, he had been in the business for like 40 years or something. And he was doing everything so old school. I don't know, you'd have to write a book on that. You know what I mean? Like, right. Literally, I didn't want to learn the old ways. So literally, I had to trailblaze and figure things out my way, right? And I don't know about you, or I don't know about the States, or maybe it was just my illiteracy in terms of the internet and use and everything. But literally 14 years ago, I didn't find a lot of content online. I didn't find anything much that was really helping me. Like, I tried to get a couple of books and whatever, and a lot of it was just, a whole lot of rah, and go get them, tiger, and memorize this technique and memorize this. And if they say that, then you say this, whatever. I'm like, but it's just not me. I want to serve. I really want to help people, right?
Right.
And so I was true to my own calling, and I went for the immigrants. And let me tell you, the
Your
immigrants did
niche.
not.
I mean,
Yeah,
you found
but
a niche and some people that you could serve, like you said. I love that.
the immigrants did not trust me.
Mm.
They're like, "You're young. What do you possibly know, right?
Right.
And you probably want to take advantage of us because you kind of, right? Like it felt like there was just this trust was missing, and a
Right.
lot of, right? Like and I can't put my finger on it, Jessica, and I wish I had a better story for you, but literally, I spent years probably taught, hauling around mattresses and forks and knives and pots and pans and chairs and tables, trying to accommodate those immigrant families. I got them rental places and picked them up at the airport, and here you go, everything for free. And then they would just turn around and they would buy with other realtors. They would buy in different cities or in different towns, and that's it. So I burned out very, very quickly and made nothing on it, you know what I mean? And I kind of discovered what not to do type thing, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's been a very interesting. So I had to figure out, okay, so how else do I do this? And then funny enough, I don't know about you, but I feel like the people in church, they all were kind of like, oh, this is so nice that you're doing this, right? But at the same time, they all listed with other people, with other realtors.
Yeah.
Nobody trusted me.
Right.
What do you know? Like everybody knows you're this immigrant, German immigrant girl. What could you possibly know to help me with this, as they say, this largest investment that I have, right? I'm not going to put that in your hands.
Well, and
And
a lot of our
so I
moms have
literally
the
had,
same situation with being new agents. And I mean, I'm even coaching some right now that are brand new agents and, having the same distrust. So what did you do to overcome that?
I had to turn around my marketing.
Okay.
And I had to literally figure out, how can I stop being the moth that chases, that runs after, or how can I be the light, rather, that chases the moth, right? And how can I become this fire that attracts the moth? So instead of me constantly trying, I've done my fair share of cold calling. I've done my fair share of calling for sale by owners and trying to get a foot in the door. And this hashtag, I might have a client for you. Mm-hmm. And it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. Now I know how to do it, right? But at the same time, it took me quite a while to figure out how to use reverse sales psychology to truly become magnetic to my ideal prospect. And what I ended up doing at that point is I started to really prepare. Okay. So I'm like, okay, so people don't trust me because I don't know anything. And granted, they're right. So I went and started to look at every single house that was for sale in my market, every single house. I started to know the inventory so well. I started to know it better than my broker. Mm-hmm. I knew every street, every road. I drove down everywhere. I'm like, if this is on the market, I'll be the first one there. I'm going to be the first one to leave my business card. I'm going to be showing them that, whoever is going to ask me about something, I've already been there. I know what it looks like. I know what it smells like. I know what the layout is. I know what the pros and cons are. And because I've looked at so many houses, I can tell you this is going to be a hot deal, right? Or this is going to be, this is probably going to sit a little while. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And so I started to prepare, and I started to run ads a completely different way. And so what I did is basically I used, where people would say, well, you're this German immigrant girl and you don't know anything and you don't know anyone. I'm like, well, but guess what I do have? I have lots of contacts that are coming from Germany, which was true, right?
Right.
And so even though a lot of them ended up burning me out, but what I ended up doing is a lot of them were fantastic, right? I worked with French immigrants. I've worked with Swiss immigrants, Austria. I've worked with so many different, the Netherlands, right? And I felt I built this niche in the beginning where people would say, well, surely those European people must have a lot of money, right? So, but here's the thing, it's very easy for someone to say, well, then you just kind of lucked out, right? Because you kind of turn it around for yourself. And I'm like, well, no, if I had promised you that I have a cash buyer for you from Europe, but then when I came, I got the foot in the door, but when I came to your house, I had no clue from Adam what I'm talking about. I had no idea how to evaluate your house. I had no idea who your competition is and how to design a marketing strategy that will sell your house properly. because I can't rely on European buyers, right? They're a great hook. I would have lost the battle right there.
Right.
But what happened is I had prepared so well that when I was starting to run direct response marketing ads, that people would be like, and how long have you been in the business? And I'm like, feels like forever. Because I've seen every house on the market and I've done this.
Yeah, I like
right?
that.
Right? I don't have to tell you I started 2 months ago. I said,
Right.
feels like forever, because I've looked at so many. But, has it been easy? It never is, because I don't know about your market down there, but I feel like every market has this dominating agent that has all the listings. Sometimes they even look good, so people are like, their signs are everywhere, they must be really knowing what they're doing. So let's call them. Well, yippee, we had an agent in our area whose strategy was to overprice. I'm so sorry. Can you hear the vacuum noise?
No.
You can't. My cleaner is in the house, and I asked her not to vacuum until I'm done, and she apparently forgot. So.
Okay, I cannot hear it, so that's okay.
That's so funny. So I lost my train of thought. Where was I?
Well, you were saying that there's that one agent that.
Yes, that's right. Well, in my market, it was someone who was constantly overpricing every property by at least 20%. We're not talking 5,000, 10,000. We're talking, and granted, our market was on the way up. You were like, things were starting to kind of heat up a bit, right? And, but she would always price it like 3-4 years ahead.
Right.
And it was so hard. So every time I would compete, I would quote a realistic sales price and I would lose. And what happened is I had to literally just stick it out, and I had to wait until those listings expired. And eventually I would get the phone call. So it took just a little bit longer for me, right? But
then you found another niche. So you had your immigrant niche or relocation, and then your expired niche.
Yeah, well, here's the thing though. Right after that, it became illegal in our area to call expireds. You can't call them.
Oh,
we cannot contact expireds in Manitoba.
My goodness.
No,
you have a really strict area.
Yeah, no. But it's been very frustrating and also very humbling and or humiliating, probably would be the right word, because I remember like every time I would go out there to look at those houses and I wouldn't have a babysitter, I'd pack all my 3 little ones in the van, and I'd get there, I'd park out there, and sometimes I'd show up and she was there showing the house. And I remember telling my kids, you guys duck when she walks by, you make sure you duck so she doesn't see you, because it just doesn't look very good on mama, Right. Drag kids to the showings.
Right.
And I remember feeling so guilty.
Yeah. And
so just insufficient. I'm like, I'm no good as a realtor. I'm no good as a mom. I'm in the house. I'm literally peeking out of every window, making sure they're still okay.
Yeah.
And it was so surreal for a moment there. And I'll tell you, it really, like, I think the top quality of the realtor who really persists, right, has got to be that, and just that endurance to just persist and just to push through when it's so very, very easy to just quit and say, this is just not for me. It's not for me. Right. Or I'll do it later. One day, maybe, when the babies are grown and whatever, right? But I still wanted to make it work, because I started to really develop this passion, and I could see I was good at it. So the few that I could sell, I felt like, I can do this. So literally a couple of expired listings I would have in town. They had been sitting with a Remax realtor for like 3 months, and I'd list them at the same price and sell them within a week.
Wow.
And I had the Remax realtor saying, how did you do that? And I'm like, I ain't telling you. It was a completely different way. But I believe for all the moms out there who are hanging in there, I just want to really encourage you and say, like, there is a season in everything, right? And you may not be able to hustle where you're like full time and you're doing it, whatever, which is, I couldn't. I had my little ones, right? And I was still homeschooling them. But a couple of years in, I became so successful that I was able to get my hubby home, and he stayed and he became the main tutor. And so actually our two youngest just graduated this year. So we're done. We're finished. And you know, I'm very, very grateful for that, because I feel like this is the reason we came here. And yes, we built this amazing business. And yes, I had so many crashes. And yes, I made so many mistakes. But the reason, you know, my life's purpose for my children was to not only educate myself, but give them a completely different lifestyle, a lifestyle of traveling where we see the Grand Canyon and don't read about it. We experience the desert heat in July and don't just think it must be very hot, right? And complain about 25 degrees Celsius. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. And so, yeah, I don't know, like, I could just keep going and going and going. So I'm sorry. No, so maybe you take over with your question. So.
No, your story is so interesting. I love it. And she did write a book as well. So I was going to let everyone know, if you guys want her book, comment below book, and then I'll get you the link to purchase it on her website. What's the book called, Alina?
It's How to Get Listings and Dominate Your Market, even if nobody's ever heard of you.
And she literally wrote the book on it. She knows how to do it, which is, I think, is awesome. But I was going to kind of back up to the whole juggling, you know, homeschooling and, you know, doing what you could do during that time of your life, that season, because that's really the focus of our group as real estate mega moms. And I think that sometimes we get so hung up on, well, I want to be number one, or, you know, I need to spend 50 hours a week doing real estate, when in reality, the beautiful part of our job of being realtors is that it can fit in our life. It's not I live to work, but I work to live, right? We fit it in between the most important things, which is our family.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think there's just really one thing. It's quality over quantity. I think especially as moms and as women, we're so used to fixing everybody's mess all the time.
Right.
So if we have a client who's difficult, we feel like, oh, I can totally handle this. And sometimes I would just say, no, you can't. Just leave them alone, because they won't appreciate you. You can just bend over backwards. And I have made the experience that the ones that I've worked the hardest for, whose driveway I shoveled all winter and whose lawn my husband mowed all summer, and the houses just didn't sell sometimes because they were like super difficult and whatever, right? Or the sellers were super stubborn about the list price, and I thought I could do it. Those are the ones that ended up not appreciating me at all, right? Yes. And so I feel there's one thing is you have to know who your ideal customer is. What are you fishing for? What is it that you want? And then you have to start marketing in such a way. And you have to really start you have to quit telling people how awesome you are. You have to quit telling people about all your accolades, or that you're looking for listings, or that you're offering free home evaluations. Everybody does that. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out what is the main pain point of my ideal customer. Be that a new home buyer, be that if you're specializing with a home builder, maybe that's somebody who has been through a nightmare of spending 100% more than their budget was, or whatever, right? Like, you have to literally put yourself into the situation of your ideal prospect. You know, it could be seniors, it could be people who live in the country, have acreages or whatever, right? What is your biggest issue with buying and selling, right? And then you have to start using that in your marketing. It's the most important thing, because if everybody says the same thing, we all sound the same. And then it becomes you're competing. It's all this noise, right? But if you know how to set yourselves apart, and I'm not trying to pitch anything. I have a training that's dynamite on that. It's called Trusted Authority. How to develop not just your USP, your unique selling proposition, but beyond that, how to develop this unique idea. And see, for me, quickly go into that, and I'll come back to the balance, I promise. For me, it was from the very beginning, people would ask me, Schumacher, you must be related to the race car driver. And in the beginning, I'm like, I don't even know who he is, which not quite true, but yes, I did know who he is. But people would just constantly comment, especially guys, right? Like people would be like, oh my gosh, like, and then I know that we live very close in Germany to where Michael Schumacher used to live, or probably still lives. And well, you never know, you dig down deep enough, there might be some common roots, right? So bottom line is I started to really use that in my brand, where before I started my own brokerage, I would say just, it was Alina Schumacher, you're not just in the race, you win the race. But the problem was it was just way too long, right? And so when I started my brokerage, I'm like, I would be so unwise not to use this, right? So Schumacher Realty became all about that, the race theme. My slogan was driven to finish, because the finish line is all about winning, and clients, that's what a home seller wants. And so our brand, checkers, red, me in a race suit, talk about setting yourself apart, right?
Wow.
And then instead of a sold sign, we would put finished on top of our signs, which ended up being really genius too, because people will call back and say, does this house have a finished basement?
So then you got leads.
And we got leads and we sold them something, baby. Absolutely. But obviously now it's like people totally understood finished means instead of sold, because we're driven to finish, and when we're done, we're finished, right?
Love it.
And so even though my competition copied a lot of things, but this is one thing they couldn't copy, but it was literally, our brand stood for getting stuff done. Our brand stood for absolutely innovative marketing. Like we were the first people to really use video and those kinds of things, right? Like when I started my company, I had this really cool little animated video. It was like a combination of, it was a bunch of animations and me in a race suit. And then it was just like little finish signs going back and forth, and this little race car driving into the garage, and then me coming out with this blue towel shop, wiping my hands and saying, hey, in real estate, you got to blah, 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 you got to have the right tools, right? So we launched a company with that, and we did a bunch of testimonials, like reviews with clients, right? So it wouldn't just be me talking about me, but it would be clients saying, this is the experience we've had, right? So the brand was really, really unique, and that's something how you stand out, but you automatically are going to be attracting the kinds of people that really can connect with that, right?
Right.
And so that ends up being, you have to know what makes you different. You have to know, and then you have to market to that, right? You have to be free to say no. You have to be completely okay with saying no. Because when you got married, if you are married, saying yes to one person meant you said no to everyone else. Right. And in real estate, with clients, I feel it's no different. Like you have to know who you're going to be saying yes to, because I made this mistake. I thought I could make everyone happy. I thought I could hustle and I could do whatever. I'd be constantly on my phone, to the point where my son, he was about 7 years old, and we were sitting on the couch in the evening and watching a movie, and my phone was constantly going, and he's like, oh man, he says, sometimes I just wish I could throw that thing in the toilet.
Oh, wow.
And that was one point where I felt like, that was a turnaround point for me. So I'm kind of jumping back and forth on my line here, I guess, timeline. But you have to understand who you're saying yes to. But one other thing that I feel like as a mom I did that was really, really good, and I inspired lots of people to do it later too, and I can't remember who I learned this from, but it was to schedule intentional dates with every one of my children on the anniversary date every month. So their birthday date every month, it would be one undivided, like you and I are going for a round of golf, you and I are going for dessert, you and I are going to the park, you and I are going for whatever you like, shopping. It's just the two of us, right? And I started doing that in July of 2011.
I love
and
that.
I feel like that has been the most important thing, where yes, your kids are going to learn this is life, and nothing's perfect in life. There's seasons. There's a time to plant. There's a time to water. There's a time where everything grows and you have to pull out weeds.
Right.
There's a time where you're like sowing your like everything at the same time, and you're like, okay, I've got to figure out what do I want. There's a time to harvest, but there also is a time to just rest, right?
Yes.
And that is something I think as moms, we sometimes just feel guilty to do, and we
Yes.
shouldn't. We shouldn't. We should really understand. And our children, I think if we're being real with our kids, and if necessary, get down on eye level and say, you know what, mom totally messed up. I am so very, very sorry. I'm sorry. Can you please forgive me? I totally messed this up. I'm sorry. You know, I feel like if you are being honest with your children, they will understand. They will totally understand. And I actually believe it makes them better and stronger people for their adult life than having this unrealistic, oh, mommy's going to be with you all the time. Well, it just ain't going to happen. It just doesn't happen. But in this case, it was something we could always really look forward to, you know? So where do you want to go for a date? What do you want to do? Right? And it's just us. Phone to the side. Don't even.
I love that. That's such a great tip to have a date night with them on their birth anniversary. I love it. Each month. And we talked about in our inner circle scheduling, and basically the very first things you put in your time block schedule is your family time and your time with your kids, and you decide what's my non-negotiable, what am I not going to compromise. And I think if we remember to put that first, you know, the rest will kind of fall into place, and we won't forget and miss the most important things. This fly.
Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey. And you know what, that lesson by Stephen Covey, if you have a chance to go to YouTube and actually watch that lesson where he has someone from the audience come on stage and try to place small rocks in first and then the bigger rocks. And he says, okay, well, now let's do this the right way. Totally changed my life. Totally changed my life. Because the thing is, if someone calls me right now and says, I want to see it right now, I'm here, can you come right now? That person is probably, first of all, they're not going to buy it anyway, okay? Secondly, if I tell them, you know what, I really wish I could, but I do have a commitment right now. Would tomorrow at 2:00 work, or would 5 be better, right? If they don't accept that, they're not my kind of client. And I wish you a wonderful day, but you and I just ain't going to do a deal together, right? I came to that point the hard way, because I was like, yes, I'll be there in 10 minutes, right? In the very beginning. And it's like, you're dropping whatever it is you're doing, which usually it has to do with your family, right? With your kids. And you're dropping, or you're fitting everybody in the van real quick. Everybody, let's go. This could be the one. This could be the one that pays my bills this month. But hope is not a strategy in the real estate business.
Well, I will say that it is amazing when you do start to get a little bit of success and you have a few listings and you have a few deals, how that urgency is not necessarily there. And it's so freeing. You know what I mean? Like you said, this could be the one that pays my bills. I think we have a lot of the newer real estate agents in our audience, and they feel like, well, I can't afford to say no to someone. But really, you can't afford to say no. You can afford to say yes if it's the wrong client, if it's the wrong deal, because you're going to waste so much time on someone who's either not worthy, or like you said, they're not even serious about purchasing, and you've taken time away from either your family or another potential client that you could have served.
Absolutely. And there again goes quality over quantity, right? I'd rather have one listing that is priced well and that I can focus on to market so well that my sellers are so blown away, because I always return the phone calls. They are my number one. They deserve a phone call right away, right? Where people would say, holy, you're fast. I'd say, driven to finish. How can I help you, ma'am? Right? And that is so very important, right? Because that is going to be my repeat referral, right? If I can wow those people instead of trying to chase everyone else, and they're all running in a different direction, trust me. So it's like, if you read my book, I got this, and I can't remember where I read it, but it's this analogy of having these 4 beach balls. You're in this water, and it's this beautiful crystal beach, and it's like gorgeous. It's the sunny blue skies, palms like waving in the wind. But you are in the water frantically trying to hold all 4 balls under the water at the same time. And it's just not working, because the moment you pop this one under, this one comes up, and you're just like constantly, right? That's not, you can't do that, right? You literally have to understand quality over quantity. But the other thing is, I think there's also practical things, Jessica, that we as moms know how to do. You know, they always say, you know, multitask and all that kind of stuff. And I don't believe multitasking is possible per se. It's more like you're switching to different tasks really quickly. But how about pre-cooking a whole bunch of meals? How
Right.
about prepping stuff? I felt very liberated when I hired a cleaner. Girls, that is like got to be the best investment I have ever made. It cost me $120 per week to get my house clean. And during that, and it's 6 hours that she works here. And during those 6 hours, you know, I can choose to support and maybe just change my linens or whatever, but I can also just go into the office and get some stuff done. And I know my time is worth more than $20 an hour, right? And so I think that is like a lot of ladies are saying, I wish I could afford a cleaner. I'm like, you can't afford not. You can't afford not. If you're serious about business, you have to understand what your, you know, what is your time worth. And I realize maybe not the first 6 months. I get that, right? But at some point, you have to understand, okay, how can I build a support system into place? You know, how can I pre-cook stuff? How can I do my grocery shopping so that it serves me and I don't feel like I'm this hamster that can't ever keep up, you know what I mean, in this wheel, right? So,
I just love everything
I hope that makes sense.
Share. I mean, I feel like you're a wealth of knowledge, and I can't wait to finish reading your book. She sent it to me a couple weeks ago, and I have started it, and I cannot wait to finish it because I just love your story, and I love that you're a woman as well.
Thank you.
So if you ladies would like a copy of this book, and I can send you the link if you can comment below book. And one of my admins will reach out to you and send you the link to her website. And then also, what is your podcast in case they want to follow you?
It's called The Alina Show. And you can find it on iTunes, on any device really that you listen to. It's on Stitcher. It's on Spotify. It's like everywhere. So definitely.
One thing I loved about your show is a lot of them were pretty short, so pretty easy to listen to, but you get to the point to whatever it is you're sharing, whatever tip you have. And I think that we're always looking for new podcasts to listen to. So you guys should definitely subscribe.
Thank you. Thank you.
And while you're there, subscribe to Real Estate Mega Mom Show too. And this interview right here is going on that podcast. So if you missed some of it, you can always go back and watch it there or listen to it there.
Awesome.
All right, Alina. Well, I think that's all we have time for. Was there anything else you wanted to share?
I am very, very grateful for the opportunity, but I do want to really draw the attention of all you moms to this amazing woman that is hosting this event here right now, and that's hosting the page. Jessica, I am so amazed at the work you do. Now, I want to interview you and ask, how can you manage all of this? You know, you have your own brokerage, you've got a son, you've got this business, you have other realtors, and you do coaching. You know, this is something that I want to know, how do you do it all? So I can sense your beautiful heart coming out as you speak. I've watched a couple of your lives. I did a little bit of research on you. And I'll tell you, there's so many coaches right now, wannabe coaches, right? There's so many people out there that claim to know something, but there's not a whole lot of them that put their heart into it. And I feel like you are one of those people that truly, truly cares. And whoever has the pleasure to learn from you and to be coached by you, I think their success is like a no-brainer. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity, and I want to just commend you for the work you do. You're amazing.
Oh my goodness, Alina, thank you so much. That really means a lot. So
you bet.
I couldn't do it. This fly is driving me crazy. You've seen me swatting at it all day, all this interview. Well, I could not do any of this without our support. I have an amazing VA, I will say that, a virtual assistant, and then Randy Para, and we have a couple other coaches, Nellie Dettinger and Jessica Lynn. So anyway, it's amazing to have some good support. And I think, the point you brought up about your cleaning lady, I mean, just wherever you can start, start thinking about surrounding yourself with this team that's going to help you fulfill your vision, whatever that is. So I love that. Well, I can't wait. I would love to be interviewed. That'd be awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Alina. I'm really looking forward to just continuing to get to know you and do things with you in the future. So
thank you so much, Jessica. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, Mega Moms.
Bye.